I suppose one of your most personal films was Birdy.
Yeah.
And one of your best films too, in my opinion. Do you agree with that?
Well, you get some things right.
A difficult film to do.
It was very difficult in so much as we had to. I remember when we were raising the money, we used to say to the studio executives, you know, it's a film about Vietnam War, but it's also it's about a boy who falls in love with a canary, which is a bit of a stretch of imagination. But yeah, it was difficult in that regard. Trying to simulate the flight of a bird was really quite difficult, and I think that comes off very well in the film. But it's an interesting film because in the end it's like, I think as a film director it's always very nervous when, for instance, all of you have just seen Midnight Express, which is made in 1977, so that's 36 years ago. 36-year-old film to hold up and still look modern is really quite difficult. So you hope that your films can last longer than the year or so of release.
If you were to say, well, if I've got 3 films in me which I'd really like to show people that have lasted, which ones would you choose, do you reckon? It's a silly question, but...
It's most of them, I would say. You would find that very arrogant, I know. I think that I made 14 films, and there's not one that I'm embarrassed by. And you know, for me, that's my judgment on what I've done.
Well, that's a good judgment. I mean, most directors would probably have told me 3 films out of the 14. Have you got a favourite one?
I do, but I like the ones. The only film I did, The Commitments, which I made in Ireland, is the one film that I think is the only one where I had universal critical acclaim. Normally my films, as you know, polarize critical opinion. But that one was the one that was the most, it was also the most enjoyable to make. You know, some films are hard to make, but with The Commitments, I couldn't wait to wake up in the morning and go to work, which was not always the case when you're making a film.
Why is that? Because of the young people in the cast? Because of this?
No movie stars, very small amount of money, no pressure from a studio, and young people who were unpretentious and a joy to be with. And you know, at the end of making Fame, for instance, which had 8 young people, I wanted to murder every single one of them. At the end of The Commitment, which has 12 main people, I just loved them because they were all fantastic. It's a big difference. And it shows in the film, I think.
Do you sometimes regret that you haven't made more films like Commitments?
No, again, I think that I am proud of the fact that I've tried to do different kinds of films. I've attempted different genres. You know, there is a theory in France, and perhaps also in Italy, that a director makes a similar film every time, only a different version of that same film. And I've tried to, because, as you pointed out, my first 2 films were so different. I continued on that path, which is to react against what I'd done before. So I've often tried not to repeat myself. Sometimes on a film, I find myself, for instance, at the bottom of a staircase. I remember in a film I made, Angel Heart, I was filming Mickey Rourke coming down the staircase, and I thought, I've done this shot before in another film. And that's not a good feeling, because I think every time it's better to go into a different area, because that's the one way to stay creatively fresh. And so I've tried not to repeat myself in all the films that I've done.